I'm Matt Futterman from the Wall Street Journal. I'm joined here today in the WSJ studios by Alexi Lalas, star of the U.S. men's national soccer team in 1994. It's a long odds for the U.S. to get out of a very difficult group. Ghana, Germany, Portugal. What has to happen for the U.S., other than scoring more goals than their opponents, for them to somehow get out of that group?
I think first game against Ghana is huge. I think you got to win it. People talk about just getting points. I think that you have to win it, and I certainly think the U.S. is capable of beating Ghana. Certainly, Ghana has knocked the U.S. out over the last two cups, so they have a track record of beating the U.S. But I think that first game, you got to come out and you have to show Ghana right from the beginning whistle that this is not the U.S. team that they have faced in the last two World Cups. And if you can get 3 points in that first game, then I think they got a real good shot. I think the other thing is just in general is that they have to embrace the underdog role. I know Jurgen Klinsmann doesn't like to talk about that, but they are the underdogs. And sometimes U.S. teams, not sometimes, historically the U.S. team has played at its best when there are low expectations, when people don't believe that they can do great things. Probably not just in terms of soccer teams, but in general, Americans, when you tell us we can't do something, that riles us up. And I think this team has to embrace that underdog role, a position that they are very comfortable in, and go out and do some great things, because there really isn't a tremendous amount of pressure on them.
They sort of like to play with a chip on their shoulder.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, my generation did, because people were telling us that we're Americans, we can't play soccer. I think that has certainly changed. But when you look at it in the context of this group right now, there's not a lot of people that give them a chance of coming out of what is definitely a difficult group.
There are some older players on that team, guys in their early 30s. A lot of other countries, once you get to your early 30s, you don't really have much of a role on a national team. What is happening with the growth of soccer in the U.S.? Are we getting enough younger players to take those major positions on the national team?
You know, I think the evolution of soccer, from an American mentality, it's why haven't we gotten there? But if you take a step back and you look at what has really happened, on and off the field, it's unprecedented in terms of the growth and what we have today. When you look at the individual players, and even if they're players that are older and they're coming to their last World Cup, like a Tim Howard or a Landon Donovan, what they have done and the period of growth that they've been involved with is pretty incredible when you see what American soccer is today. The game of soccer on the field, the teams that we have, Major League Soccer, the individual players that we have seen that have grown into stars like Clint Dempsey, like Landon Donovan, like Tim Howard. Off the field, the business of soccer, and you know, people like Marriott recognizing that this is a sport that they want to be involved with because it makes good business sense, and this is a sport that continues to be that thread that weaves a culture that is changing consistently. That is the unique part about soccer as it relates to our culture. It's an incredible time to be a soccer fan in the United States right now in 2014. And I think when you watch this team this summer, you will see some of that reflected in terms of how we view this team, the passion that comes out on the field, but more importantly, the passion that comes out off the field. When you're here in New York City and you're going to see the bars are packed and everybody's screaming and yelling for this team, it's going to be based around the game of soccer, and that's awesome to be a part of.
The U.S. is in its pre-World Cup camp right now. They got 30 players, it's going down to 23. You're trying to build a team mentality in that camp. At the same time, there's a competition going on for some spots. How does that balance work itself out? You've been in camps before. What is going on there right now?
It's cutthroat right now because, look, I can attest to the power of a World Cup. It can change your life. I have lived the power of a World Cup. The reason why I'm sitting here with you is because of the summer of '94. And you want to be on that plane. You want to go to the World Cup. And there are players right now in camp that know that they are on the bubble, and so they're fighting for it. And you don't want to hang out with guys that you're fighting for that spot with. You don't want to go to meals. And so it's cutthroat. In that sense, it conforms to what Jurgen Klinsmann has talked about, wanting to instill a competitive environment consistently. I question whether it would have been better to name the 23, because he's got to know at this point who his 23 is, or basically what his 23 is, and get that time together as that 23, as that family that is going to go down to Brazil this summer. I think that he may have been better served by doing this, because now you just got guys running around fighting for spots, and I know it's competitive, but this team at some point has to become that team and spend as much time together. And I think that's important to any team, and certainly to the U.S. going into a very difficult group.